how's it going? Eli here, back with another video where today we're going to be having a conversation on if the bottom is finally in for Pokemon product or if reprints are right around the corner and this is just a little bit of a false breakout for some of these super duper expensive products. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. As always, get out of the way. If you want to enter into our weekly giveaways, all you have to do is be subscribed, leave a like, and comment down below on any of the pre-recorded videos we post each and every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Of course, as always, you can comment and like on each video, which allows you for multiple entries since we post 3 videos each week for you to comment and like on. And then we've got 3 winners each and every week, so multiple opportunities to enter and multiple opportunities to win. But now, let us jump into today's topic. So for those of you guys that don't know or who have been at least OGs of the channel, I should say, I have what's called the Pokemon cards Google Trend Indicator that I've been using for the longest time. So now, obviously, when comparing Pokemon as a just general hobby or as just a general, how do I want to say this, market, it's very hard for you to look at it the same way as a stock because it doesn't have a direct stock chart that you can kind of follow. However, one of the things that we've learned to discover over time, if you go to Google Trends and you just do a keyword search for the term Pokemon cards, it actually has a very accurate indication of where the direction of the market is going and or how the overall value of the product itself is doing during that time. So, for example, if you go take a look, obviously, at what was going on during the back end of 2020 going into 2021, you saw that products were at their all-time high. And with that, showing the chart from 2004 to present, you can see that there was an all-time high spike. And then going into the end of last year, going into August, shortly after, of course, Evolving Skies came out, what basically transitioned into happening? You had a large amount of product that got reprinted, and you saw a correlation with that come right near around the same time. And then, of course, leading into Brilliant Star, you saw Brilliant Star cause a huge pickup in demand. You saw Evolution Premium Collections cause a huge pickup in demand. This is obviously something that was announced and then released sometime in January and February for both of those sets. Now, one of the things you have to take into consideration as well, and we've talked about this before when looking at the chart, it's a laggard chart. So, for example, as you're aware, you see that there's a heightened demand in December and then a heightened demand in January. But then there's, of course, a drop-off in March and then continuing in February. That's because the height of these charts are represented in the build-up or lead-up to the specific product that people are getting hyped for. Once the actual day of the news has happened, the overall move has already been made. It's kind of like what you hear a lot of times in crypto or just in traditional markets in general. It's, sell the news, or it's buy the dip, sell the news, if I'm correct, is how it basically works. And the whole concept of that is, let's say that the Fed is going to be announcing they're going to raise, by 75 basis points, right? Well, you best be believing that when they make that announcement, and that's the general news, that's when the general price is going to make the correction. But then when the actual day happens and they actually go out and do it, the price has already been kind of corrected in on when the news first happened because people already are ahead of it on when the actual day happened, which is why there tends to be, release days for specific big catalyst events where you actually have positive days rather than negative because it's already been factored in. And so I look at it the same way in terms of Pokemon. And speaking of which, of course, when talking about factoring in catalysts, Pokemon, for the longest time, has been a very much so, how do I want to say this? It's been very bound to the hip in terms of the value that you've seen when correlating it to cryptocurrencies. And then, of course, cryptocurrencies to the stock market. Now, if you look at crypto as a whole, usually it would be the leader. Crypto goes down, Pokemon tends to follow. Crypto goes up, Pokemon tends to follow. However, most recently, for those of you guys who have been in the crypto sphere, we have seen that recently, crypto has been doing absolutely nothing. It's been doing just sideways action for the past several months, going up and down in a 10% range, more or less between $18,000 and $20-ish thousand. Now, Pokemon, on the other hand, Pokemon is at a point right now where it, of course, had a peak of demand, or its most recent peak of demand was back during December. And leading up to that, it looks like we're approaching the overall high point of peak in terms of demand for our current year so far. The question you have to ask yourself is, when you look at this on a chart, is this something where you're going to see that demand continue to go up and you're going to see, of course, product prices tend to go up with it? Or is this something that's more or less just a false breakout and you're going to see a top be made relatively soon here and product prices are going to drop? And that's kind of going to be the main focus and discussion for today's video. First things first, of course, we want to go over to TCG Player and take a look at some of the products that we're directly discussing in terms of evaluation. Evolving Skies obviously is a product that at its prior all-time high on a market chart, it was pushing at roughly around, I think we had seen it push almost $200, and then retested that price point of $200 before it got a print, and then it, of course, saw a market correction. Once it then, of course, retested that $200 price point, it is now skyrocketed past that once it had broken. Kind of interesting how you see the fundamentals of just general psychology of prices and product. It's very similar in the same way in just markets across the board. You see that in just life in general. Psychology plays a huge factor into just charting and doing general analysis. That's why I basically told people that, hey, if the price of Evolving Skies breaks past $200 and you see that represented on a monthly on a chart, I said, don't be surprised if that's something that you now see it absolutely skyrocket past. And what do you know? We're now pushing 240 shortly after it broke 200. So that came to fruition just basically based off of general market psychology. Once it's breaked over certain points, then people don't look at it the same way in terms of overall numbers, right? It's the same reason why when you go to a lot of stores, you see people price it at, or by people I mean big box retailers, they price a lot of products, $19.99, $18.78, or whatever it is. They have certain prices that they use where they don't have round whole numbers, because from a psychological perspective, you're more wired to want to buy a product that's $19.99 versus $20, because in your mind it's cheaper because you're not seeing that full rounded $20 price point, even though it's basically the same. Same concept applies in psychology when you're looking at market charts. Evolving Skies, of course, being one of those products that has very much shown a correlation to this chart perfectly, as it has continued to absolutely skyrocket up in price. Brilliant Stars is another one of those products as well that recently, for those of you guys that have been following it, has also started its ascension in terms of value. It's at 165 right now. Outside of these two specific products, you obviously have your Sword and Shield Ultra Premium Collection. There's been a ton of hype around that, which is, in my personal opinion, correlated to a lot of keyword terms for general Pokemon products. Of course, it has seen a recent dip, but it is still a product that is almost double above what MSRP is, and so that's still something that you have to take into consideration when looking at just general product that is being hyped up and discussed currently. Obviously, Lost Origin, Astral Radiance, and Silver Tempest have kind of been just sitting where they're sitting right now. Nothing that's really changed there. So then the question, of course, is this going to be indicative of the full market as a whole, seeing that a trend is going to continue to go up? Or is this going to be just indicative of market leaders? Obviously, you've heard the term before, a tide rises all ships. Man, I am really good at botching sayings. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying by that. But basically, if you have one thing that's going to be leading the market, generally speaking, it at some point trickles down, depending upon how big of a correlation there is to the rest of the market, of course. So the question, of course, is going to remain, where is this trickle-down effect going to take place? And is this something that, once again, is going to be completely indicative of the future markets? Now, here's my personal opinion on things, and I want to give you guys a little bit of information that I, of course, have just recently learned within the past couple of days, both from distributors and then from other, of course, other influencers, more or less, or other hobby shop owners within the sphere. First and foremost, I want to preface by saying this. Please, please, please do not FOMO into these prices. I want to say this because I've had recently a lot of people ask me questions in terms of overall price FOMO. Should I get into Evolving Skies before it hits $300-$400? No, it's not going to hit $300 or $400 before it gets a reprint. I feel confident saying that. Yes, I did say that after $200, the sky was the limit for how high it was going to go. But also, with that being said, that doesn't mean that the Pokemon Company isn't aware of what the overall price of Evolving Skies is currently, and that they're not going to reprint a product that is still in rotation for the competitive format for the next year and a half, and makes it extremely unaffordable for a lot of people to play some of these cards because the set itself is super expensive. And of course, you can always play the cheaper cards. You don't have to play alt arts or full art variations. But regardless, this is still something that the Pokemon Company wants to give opportunity to a lot of their competitive players, and even their, non-competitive players that just collect. And so I want people to understand that there is eventually going to be a reprint for Evolving Skies. It's still in rotation for at least another year to a year and a half. So just, you got to be patient with it. Same concept, of course, applies with Brilliant Star. Please be patient. We actually just had recently over on I think it was the UK website for eBay that was selling Brilliant Stars booster boxes for $17 or $117. And if you are a Prime member, you did get that free shipping access. So first and foremost, if you are in the UK, I would go check that out, as that was something that was talked about quite recently. And then, of course, if I'm correct, you should still have access to it. You just obviously, if you're not a Prime member, don't get access to the free shipping, so it's more expensive. But $117 is not a bad price point. Now, going into kind of the little bit of discussion that I am saying in terms of why I think this is a false breakout is a couple of factors that you have to take into consideration. One, we're in a recession. Things are not looking good in terms of the overall economy. Inflation is an all-time high. Obviously, for those of you guys who have been a part of my live streams, I've done a little bit of breakdowns in terms of how things are going to trickle in most recently to the housing market, and why I think, of course, that is going to also play a bigger role in terms of overall prices on just retail product and goods in general. You're seeing a lot of economic policies that are going to play factor to that, and Pokemon is, of course, going to get hit by that. Most recently, a video was made. I want to give a shout out to Danny Phantom, where he had a full-on discussion about the price of MSRP changing. MSRP prices, of course, most recently, for those of you guys that have gone to any of your local Walmarts or Targets, ETBs are going for now $45 instead of $40, and that's, of course, a price that is not directly controlled by the Pokemon Company, but that doesn't mean that when Scarlet and Violet comes around, as, of course, like I said, Danny Phantom discussed, that there isn't going to be price increases across the board from the Pokemon Company to distributors, which then goes from distributors to retailers, and then from retailers to you guys. You might say to yourself, well, yeah, of course, MSRP might be going up. It might be going from 144 to 150 or 155, but, prices, of course, are going to be still under those quite drastically when you're talking about just general sealed product and booster boxes that you see out in the wild, as we can very much see. MSRP is 144 currently, and you're able to get booster boxes well below that. However, that doesn't necessarily mean that you aren't going to still see that factor in, because we've seen prices such as Chilling Reign go to $75, $80, Fusion, Battle Styles alike. What happens if inflation plays a factor where it no longer becomes in the 70s as far as really good opportunities, and now it's in the 80s and 90s? And what gets to a point of inflation where it's no longer a good deal to get product at $80, $90, and now it's a good deal at $90, $100? It might not seem like a big deal, but it actually is, because inflation is going to, of course, play into a huge, larger factor in terms of the overall amount of casual players and casual collectors that are in this hobby that are shopping at big box retailers that are not going to want to purchase this product because blister packs or booster packs went from $4 to $4.40, or from $4.20 in some places to $4.60 to $5, because as crazy as it might seem, yeah, a 10% increase or a 5% increase is not that out of the realm, especially considering when I first got into this hobby in terms of being an actual online retailer, not just a collector/investor. And I got in when booster box prices were roughly around $78 to $80, and now it's $86. That's almost a 10% increase, depending upon which point we're starting at. And that's going to, of course, cause a lot of people that have money to spend. They're going to, of course, continue to do what they're doing, but it's still going to make things more expensive, and it's going to tighten things up, especially as supply chains are still a relative issue just in the overall general economy as it stands. Next point of emphasis, of course, with that, as mentioned many times before, and I will continue to mention it, historically speaking, the Pokemon Company has always loved to do a lot of the reprints all at once, and they really love to do this around the holiday season, typically leading up to Black Friday deals, typically leading up to, of course, Christmas. With that, one of the most recent news pieces that I have just found out from my distributor, which I find quite interesting, and I think this is going to be a big factor, Lost Origin will be getting a second reprint, and that second reprint is expected sometime by the end of the month. Silver Tempest. At first, I thought I had gotten my allocation numbers cut, which made zero sense to me, considering the fact that we've obviously have a lot of news of, Pokemon products not being, released to online retailers or distributors, and it's all been given to big box retailers. So why would I get product cut now? Well, come to find out, Silver Tempest is actually going to be broken up into 2 waves, specifically for booster boxes. Of course, I want to make that very clear. With that, of course, being said, you're going to see Silver Tempest have its initial release, and then shortly after that, you're going to see a second wave happen. Quite interesting, I do say so myself, that you're going to have not only a second wave for Lost Origin, which initially was just going to be a one-wave product, and Silver Tempest, once again, which initially was just going to be a one-wave product. With that, of course, being said, though, Lost Origin, as far as I know, this is a reprint. This isn't just we have a second wave coming. Silver Tempest, it looks like it's going to just be a second wave of more product coming. For those of you guys that remember once again what happened last year, this is exactly what happened with both Fusion Strike, and this is exactly what happened with Evolutions. Or sorry, not Evolutions, Evolving Skies. It feels very deja vu to me in the aspect of, hey, who's to say that these second waves or these reprint waves for these most recent product, it was purposely done this way to basically factor in that there's a ton of other product that they're in the process of reprinting right now, and these second waves are going to line up with a lot of these reprinted products because they're expected to all come out roughly sometime near the end of October, near the end of November to sometime in the middle of November. I think the timing on that is uncanny to say the least, and it wouldn't surprise me, of course, based off of what history has shown us. Now, with that outside of booster box news, and probably what you guys are going to think is even more exciting news, this is something that has been, of course, been discussed by other YouTubers, but I am here to also confirm that for myself. Yes, Sword and Shield Ultra Premium Collections, specifically the Charizard one, of course, they are officially going to be getting a second wave, and that is going to be coming sometime in December. Celebrations product as well. I obviously made a video about it that we found some, of course, pictures of people finding it in the wild. We had, of course, images of people receiving them from online Walmart. I'm here to inform that, one, my boxes arrived and it was Fusion and Evolving Skies. So super excited about that. It is still open to my knowledge for product purchase. And then second off, I actually went into my Walmart, and I want to preface by saying this. My Walmart, since recently moving, constantly has scalpers coming in, constantly has product, of course, being purchased up. The shelves are completely empty. The one product that was absolutely stuffed on the shelves, and there was a full display that was specialized for it, was the Celebrations product that we had discussed. And there were tons of it. So, personally speaking, I think this is a full-on reprint, and I think this is something that is confirmed. Now, when I say full-on reprint, I know people are going to say, well, Eli, you've already seen that the Celebrations packs, of course, are of old code cards. Yes, that is true. However, there's been reports of the other packs, the newer packs that are being thrown in, of course, Fusion and Evolving instead of what was Darkness and, of course, Battle Styles, having newer code cards. So what does that mean necessarily for us? Sure, Celebrations might not be new packs, but the other packs that are included are, and this is just a product itself that is still relatively new, whether they've been holding off on pushing it out or not. This is still new packs that they're using for at least some of it, which has me to believe this isn't something that they just found in a warehouse and just so happened to kind of, find it and then just throw it on the shelves. This is something that has been in the process for a while now, and they have just yet to release it because obviously they've been very focused on pushing out other products and, of course, hopefully, to my knowledge, going to be doing a lot other reprints going into the holiday season, and this once again just lines up with everything that we've been discussing. So, of course, you've also been seeing still news and reports of a lot of people finding Evolution Premium collections in the wild, whether that is a small amount or a large amount or whatnot. They are still stuff that have been found. People, of course, are speculating, hey, are these new packs that are also included in these, or are these old supply products? That's another question people are having. But at the end of the day, we're starting to have these discussions more and more about, hey, is product coming? Because it seems to be that product is coming. Distributors are starting to announce that there's going to be second waves for product or reprint waves for products. It looks like things are going to start to come again because obviously there was a huge dry spell that was going around. I think with all this being said and all these factors that you're taking into consideration, you're in a market recession. MSRP on prices is expected to go up. We're expecting, as it stands right now, for second waves, reprint waves to be coming on the way for booster box sets, some which are being confirmed, some which are being speculated, and then, of course, some recent product that is also showing up in big box retailers that we know for certain is being found, and some of which, as mentioned with the celebrations, on a bigger scale. And then, of course, the Charizard UPC being an item that is also confirmed to be a two-wave product. I think with all of these three factors at play, this has me to believe that this more or less is a false breakout, and this more or less is going to turn into a, how do I want to say this, a huge drop in a lot of these high demand products that people are wanting to get and that have been FOMOing into these higher prices. Personally, as I've mentioned before, I felt as if Sword and Shield, the best price, I would say to get it at, and the absolute minimum that I said I'd be willing to pay, secondary, is $180. I said, of course, I wouldn't be surprised if $150 was more realistic, and I wouldn't be surprised if you had been able to pick it up at MSRP and people thought I was crazy for that. But as I mentioned before, this is a completely different product from the UPC because this, first and foremost, from my just general allocations that I've been given, I got 6 times the amount of allocations for this product than I did UPC. So this is a hugely allocated product. I haven't even got my numbers for what Wave 2 is going to look like. That's just for Wave 1. And knowing this is going to be a Wave 2 product, and knowing that this is going to be a readily available product, and knowing that, of course, as it stands right now, what the overall high of the pre-release on this product was compared to the overall high of the pre-release on the UPC, I still am saying and standing by that you're potentially going to have access to this product at well below the $200 price point. And of course, as we can see in the charts right now, we're still about, 3 weeks away from the overall release of the set itself, and $224 is the current most recent market price of the Charizard for TCG Player. You bet that once that, of course, hits open access for those people that are not able to put up pre-orders on TCG Player, because only LGSs are able to do that, and the rest of the market is going to have access to selling their scalped UPCs, that you're going to see a rush to the bottom. Is that going to be 180? Is that going to be 150? We don't know. But what we do know is that, once again, patience is the key. Playing the waiting game is the key for this product, because it is one that I feel as if is going to be readily available at a cheaper price once you start to get to the street date for the product, and then even more so once we hit that second wave for the product. So once again, all of this, of course, being said in terms of the whole idea and encompassing idea of what today's video is, I've been just getting a lot of sentiment in terms of, hey, is the market going to be turning around what's going on in terms of overall print. We really haven't seen much crazy news in terms of reprints for booster boxes, etc., etc. Should I buy in now? Is it too late? Are we going to see an absolute turnaround in terms of the Pokemon market as a whole? Has the correction already happened? And to this I say, heck no, not even close. Literally, PSA just announced today, and of course it was readily available yesterday, but they announced today that they are now going to be doing general economy pricing for grading at $18 submission prices and bulk submissions at $15. Well, guess what bulk submission is now? It's $10. It was $20 before. Price went down by $3 and bulk submission requirements went down by 10 cards. I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that transition into $12 to even $10 within the next 3 to 6 months. And I thought we would never see prices go that low. I said that $10, getting back to $10 was a pipe dream. I said $15 was going to be our realistic new bottom in terms of overall graded pricing. I could have never imagined that there's an expectation that we could potentially go $5 lower and see prices what were before back during the craze. So that is something I also think is indicative in terms of where we are at in the market in the grading sphere. There's just a lot of factors at play and a lot of things I feel like are really leading up to a lot of these products getting a correction in price. And of course, once again, people ask me the question, Eli, what do you think that correction in price is going to look like for Evolving Skies? And I think people are going to think I'm crazy for this, but I realistically do think the price of the Evolving Skies booster box could correct, depending upon how big of the print wave, anywhere between 160 to 120, depending upon how big of a reprint it is. Think about this, guys. Vivid Voltage, when it got a reprint, it went from $240 all the way down to $120. That was a pretty big reprint that it got. That's why it dropped so much. Evolving Skies, when it was at almost $200, it got a tiny reprint, like minute, small reprint. It went from $200 and you were able to buy it at some places for $120. Obviously, you're saying more realistically $130, $135. But still, that's a massive drop for a small reprint. So why is it unrealistic that if we do get a massive reprint, which is what we're kind of expecting here at some point in the next, whether it be next couple of months to within the year, obviously, because it's still in standard rotation, that you can't see something like that happen. And so that's where I feel like people need to be patient. They need to hold their horses on this, because I know a lot of people like to play the game of saying, well, I want to get in and I don't want to miss the boat. But you also have to understand you're not going to miss the boat because this is a product that's still in rotation and is still going to be reprinted. It would be a completely different conversation if the Pokemon Company just announced that they're going to, of course, stop printing product that was, part of the E-Wave rotation, and we were a year into the future and this was the current price. That would be a completely different conversation, because then that changes the game, knowing that, Evolving Skies is about to go out of rotation and they're not going to do prints for it. Well, I guess, that means that they're not going to reprint the product, and so the prices are going to go up. But knowing that there's this much FOMO and this much emotion and people are panic buying at $240, think it's going to go to $300 or $400, when in reality, the only one card you could pull that's going to return value on that is going to be the Umbreon alternate art. That's crazy. Go just buy the loose packs for $3.50, $4. You can go do that and quite easily do it, in all honesty. It's crazy to me that people are willing to pay that much for the booster boxes if you're trying to open. And if you're not trying to open and you just want to have it a part of your sealed collection, then just wait. At this point right now, though, ladies and gentlemen, I feel like I'm just beating a dead horse. I feel like you guys get the understanding of what the whole point of this video was. You get my general sentiment on what I think is going to be happening in the market. And of course, we have a lot of evidence to back that up, as well as just looking at general history on what we're expecting to have happen in the next month or two. And like I said before, if you don't see a reprint for a lot of these products happen within the next month or two, well, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw that coming into the start of next year, because the general history and expectations of what the Pokemon Company has always done It hasn't really changed much, and so I don't know why we would all of a sudden expect it to change now. And I think it's really just people running on their emotions, especially those newer to the hobby that are not as, I should say, experienced in terms of being around for a lot of the reprints and a lot of the just general decisions the Pokemon Company has made throughout the years. As far as it goes, though, that is all for today's video. Hopefully you guys found it informative. Once again, if there's anything you take away from this video, it's hopefully be patient. There's a lot of opportunities that you're going to see in the market. I think you already have a lot of opportunities that are present from compared to last year. And so I think now is just going to be the patience of being very much so ready to pounce on when these opportunities are going to be available. If you want to enter into our weekly giveaways, make sure you leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe to any, of course, of our videos. You can comment and like on any of those. Sorry, botched that a little bit. Each and every week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then, of course, subscribe to the YouTube channel with that to enter in. We have 3 winners each and every week, and since you can comment and like on each video, that is, of course, 3 opportunities to enter. So overall, a lot of opportunity to win, but that is all for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. Until then, I will see you guys on Monday where we will announce the winners. Peace.